Hi, this is Antoinette again, and you'll have to excuse the way I look. I was out there in the garden, it was hot, and trying to pull weeds away and seeing what's coming out and what have you. But it was reminding me about the other day about the word, like it's been like about a month or so when I was just barely planting about the word legacy came into my mind and reminded me of my father. Now, legacy, if I'm correct, it means like something that you leave on to like your children or grandchildren. Um, I mean, you don't always have to be gone or passed away, to leave a legacy. A legacy could be a business, and the one of the children or the kids take over, or it could be a home and it gets sold, and the proceeds are divided. It could be a person could be alive still, and there's children or grandchildren or whatever that are still that they benefit from that, from the proceeds of that business or something, like maybe grandpa, here I gave you here's an acre of land over there to a grandchild or something like that. That's what like legacies are. Or maybe a celebrity, they're when they're gone or something, as in like the proceeds to their music still goes to their family, things like that. That's legacies, okay, legacy. And it came to my mind the other day. It's been a while, and that came to mind, and it came to my mind again now. And that's why, I'm kind of like little dismantled here, because I was out in the sun, and then I wouldn't stop sweating, and I came inside. And but this here, like I was thinking about like my father, like this was like over a month ago. Um, when I was planting, I was thinking about my father and who passed away. And then there is my mother. She passed away like probably about 7 months before, but they were separated. I mean, they were divorced. They had been divorced for a long time, and both of them had been remarried. Okay, so uh, what happened is, and this is like when a new person comes into the story or what have you, typically when the children are of the same parents and they stayed together, there might be some more of a even something that's left to them, or who knows what. But in my case, I was thinking, because like my father left me an inheritance. No, not $1 million, not 500,000, nothing like that, not even close. But um, like my brother and I already got like a certain split, because like I guess he kind of like figured he'd give us to, something more, because we were a lot more constant in his life, and this and that, Uh, and I don't think that meant that he, disliked anybody else, but out of six of us, okay? And then the split of his property, whom that brother of mine bought, because it was like a bigger piece of property and stuff, and he bought it, and so like the sale of that property gets split, between six of us again, so that. But what I'm trying to say is, like I say, it's far from $1 million. It's far from, it's not even like 100,000 or anything like that. But that money is a good bump up, to help you later on in life. Whatever, in some cases, some people really do inherit quite a bit, just saying. Or they're benefiting out of a parent or a grandparent even that started a business maybe 70 years ago or what have you. And I've seen that too. There used to be this little store over here in the small town that I live in, and I just know that it was started from the father, I believe, in 1940, and then one of the sons took over. And they came from big families, and some of them went out, they got educated, this and that, and then came and like took over the business, expanded it, made a restaurant, you know, and then later on the his daughter, if I'm correct, bought that restaurant and stuff, so on and so forth, you know, what have you. So these are like legacies, okay? And a legacy doesn't even have to be that much. So if you inherited, you know, $5,000 and, you know, or 10 or whatever have you, these are all proceeds, you know, from legacies of somebody before you know, your forefathers. And some of these big businesses or even empires could have been started by somebody originally, a forefather, great grandparent, who knows what. So as I was in the garden, you know, like about 6 weeks ago or whenever, and getting that going, the word legacy came to my mind, okay? And I'm over here thinking, I think a lot. Try not to. And I was thinking about my dad's second wife, okay? And why she came into my mind when that word came out. The word legacy came to my mind, you know, and then suddenly she pops into my mind. And I was thinking, you know, if she would have had her way, like none of us kids probably would have ended up with anything, you know, none of his kids, and there's 6 of us, you know. And like really, and I never really thought of that, you know, it's not like she didn't have anything herself, you know, it's not like that. She, in her family, they were left like a lot of land from, like her whole family inherited land from like a land grant, you know, from long ago. And so like her coming from a big family, they had inherited a lot of land, they could borrow against the land to, you know, make them a nice home and whatever have you and stuff. So legacies, okay? So she marries my father after him supposedly being, he would tell everybody she was a secretary, you know, for 7 years. I don't know, that was kind of funny. So my mom had already remarried, and I think he hesitated for a long time to remarry, and so that was his girlfriend, and they had more in common because they were both like teachers, you know, professional, whatever have you. And so when my father, that lasts like maybe a total of 7 years tops before they get divorced, but I think it only lasted probably about 5 years together after the first 7 years after actually being married. And one time I was living out of state, but I would come and obviously come visit him all the time and this and that, and him and my mom, and the whole situation was, you know, my father and her and my mom and him and stuff like that. And so anyway, we still had an old house in this little town that I grew up in, and it's kind of like just boarded up and stuff, you know, but there was a lot of fruit trees around it and stuff, and that, so like my sister ended up buying that, you know, to rebuild it, redo it, because it really does need a lot of restructuring and stuff. So that's good that she got it. And so even that money gets split, you know, that's a little extra split between, you know, the brothers and sisters. Other than that, okay, so this lady, and I can give you different examples of how legacies can be stolen, literally stolen, okay? So later on, he moves to the city, you know, which is not far from me, and then I come back to state and live over here, and he tells me one day, you know, when I asked him, well, what actually did happen, you know, between you and so-and-so, you know, because I'm not going to mention any names. And, you know, he jokes and stuff, and he says, oh, she was already breaking into my beer budget. That was funny, but really, he did tell me later on that they had combined their, you know, their bank accounts and stuff like that, which him and my mom's bank account, they used to be together because they had been married for 26 years and had 6 kids. And So they'd been used to doing that since they were young. So that's what this lady wanted and stuff and this and that. And then she starts asking him, he tells me, like, oh, why did you spend this on this? And why did you spend that on that? So he was retired at the time, and he was getting his retirement and then his social security and stuff. So he had his pension, actually wasn't bad at all. And so he's living on that, and then he does extra side work because he'll go and till and do stuff, and some extra side work, make a couple $100 a day here or there, whatever, and bring in some bucks doing that because to keep himself busy, and plus um, also like improving land improvement, towards where they had put a home, and they're doing a garden, a fence, a gazebo, doing this and doing home improvement on the land that she had inherited from her side of the family. Okay, so whatever. Other than that, so she starts like controlling his money and stuff, and then one of the grandkids comes around, coming in from Denver, and he's only like about 18 years old. He might have been 17 at the time. Heck, he might even have been 16, possibly. So he comes and he's visiting with the family, hanging out with my brother. This was like years ago when we were all younger. And I'm living out of state at the time, and he had told me something about that he had given, because he's like the first grandson of the family who later got killed, like probably about 5 years after that. And that was pretty tragic. And so he had given him $100, here, this and that, and, go get you something, he's grandpa. And she apparently got kind of bugged at that, that like, why didn't you tell me you were going to give him $100 or something like that? And I think he gave it to him too, like, go buy you some clothes, go, whatever, you can go buy him some clothes and stuff, and she didn't really like that. She wanted to have permission, although, she had 3 kids herself, and she was helping them out left and right, like, not kidding you, like free babysitting, free everything, oh, I'm gonna buy this little trailer for you, you don't even have to pay me back, and all this other stuff. So her children, even though they weren't like rich, we're not talking rich here, okay, and so giving her kids, whatever type of assistance they needed and everything. But when it came to my father giving his grandson $100, she didn't really like that. And she was getting like into like, I'm the boss. Now, when I met this person for the whole 7 years, man, talk about nicey, honey, really like sweetie pie with all of us. And then we started feeling like we weren't welcome, even coming in from out of state, and like, stay the night and then go on to go visit our mom. But like, I couldn't help but feel that she was acting different, like different, because I'd known her since I was a teenager, and she always, like, her and I was probably the one closest to her than the rest of my brothers and sisters. Like, I always considered her like a friend. And so I can right away see like an uppity attitude and stuff. So I was like, whoa, it's not like I'm tearing up the place or anything. It was weird. So I started noticing that, which was kind of discouraging, because like her whole nature was changed. Like, she wasn't even like all nicey, which she was always like, oh, it's so nice to see you, all this other stuff. So as soon as she got her claws on my dad, it was like, whoa, watch out. So she was able to play that for 7 years and never even really had a clue. Suddenly, my dad liked to drink beer and what have you, and suddenly, that's becoming an annoyance to her, but for the 7 years it wasn't. It's like, oh, you go ahead and drink as much as you want, I'm okay with it. I was like, what? So anyway, that's just one story. But, so my father ends up leaving. He decides, I'm not going to be told what to do anymore, and this and that. I already, Like she's just like trying to control everywhere I spend. And my father was always like saving. He was responsible. This is a person that was responsible. He writes down everything. This guy has a ledger. You know, some people they have ledgers for where they put where they spend their money, always balancing stuff. So he was the last person to like need to tell, you know, what to do with his money. You know, so that I know is a fact. But he told me that she wanted to control where he spent his money and how she didn't like him. Like if he wanted to give $50 to my brother, like I say, we were much younger then, or somebody, and she would be like, oh, why didn't you tell me, or this or that, while she's over there like totally helping her children. Well, anyway, it ends up in a divorce. She realizes after he moves, like, oh, I have a feeling he doesn't want to be with me. So she waits around, this and that, and she ends up divorcing him, and he's like, whatever. And I think that's what he wanted, and he just didn't want to make waves. And so later on, he goes on from that place to, you know, buy a big lot there in the city, and he's got it all fortified and everything, nice fence and this and that, and trees all over and everything. He's planting his garden, he's doing his thing, and which was good. That's what he always wanted to do. You know, he's just doing his thing, you know, and stuff. And so that property also ends up being, you know, of substantial value, right? But had he stayed with this woman, let's just say, everything would have been like within her control, okay? And so a lot of things happen to people. So I, like, seriously, to this day, you know, when I think back, I'd have thought, wow, if he didn't get out of that or whatever situation, like seriously, none of us, all these years later, we would have never gotten anything. You know, it's not that that's what you people constantly look forward to. I know some people do, you know, like, damn, I can hardly wait till he dies so I can get what I'm going to get. No, that's not right. That is so not right to have that type of things. But, you know, it's kind of sad later on when you find out who really was, you know, waiting on someone's death or why they wanted to control over the person. Sad. Sad. That's a whole other story. But, other than that, yeah. And I thought, wow, you know, with this, I'm going to invest in doing this, and I'm going to, you know, start doing this with this money and make good use of it or whatever. And not only that, you know, like his grandkids will, you know, benefit some and this and that and whatever. And it just kind of like trickles down depending on, you know, whatever, what the goal is. And, you know, maybe another sibling might go start up a business or who knows what, you know, this and that. But it's legacy. And there are people that do come into other people's lives, and lots of times, like, I could give you this thing about, like, this man that lived next door. He's already passed away. He had been married like 5 times, and he only had 1 daughter and 2 grandkids. 1 daughter, 2 grandkids, okay, from his first marriage. Now, this guy will marry anything with 2 legs, okay, as long as it was younger than him. But the last one, that lady, she was from Guatemala. Not saying nothing bad about that, but that one there, she even had 5 kids from 4 different men, and they were probably all older men. So whatever she was doing over there, she was doing over here. Well, to him, you know, she was like 18 years younger than him. Whoop-de-doo, you know, that makes her glorious. So anyway, this vampire, you know, she takes everything from him and everything. His kids actually end up with absolutely nothing. He had this old house in some little town that probably wasn't even worth that much, but he had promised his daughter, who's actually as old as me, so I got to know her, and she was telling me the story that he had told her, you know, that one of these days he's just going to give her that house, you know. And so she had kind of thought, well, you know, I've had my tumbles and gone through divorce and all this other stuff. Maybe, you know, he'll pass over the house. She finds out later that he had sold the house. He sold it for cheap. And I even remember him telling me, oh, he was going to fix it up because he was going to rent it and blah, blah, blah. So anyway, full scoop. He sells the house for cheap because this lady from Guatemala wants her son, her youngest son, who she had actually given to her mother or something, because she was like, I guess, popping out babies left and right over there. And so she wants him to come. He's probably around 30, 32 at the time. And so he goes and sells that place for her. Forget the daughter. Forget what he said to her. He sells that place in order to pay like $5,000 and then some, you know, to help bring her son over and stuff. He could have probably just taken out a loan or who knows what. I mean, he was always acting like he had money. But instead he did that. So the daughter didn't get that old house, and it was just an old house, that like a fixer-upper. But she had thought she was going to get it. But no, everything got consumed by this lady who is nothing but a vampire, and a whore. Sorry, that offends anybody, but there's a lot of hoes that do that. They come into these older men's lives. They try to suck up all the legacy or anything that could go towards their children or their grandchildren or whatever. And they're just there to consume everything. They don't have to be from another country, but beware, people, beware. They're not all as humble as you think, you know. Some of these women, they have this whole humble, little humble, oh yeah, oh, see, oh yeah. Oh, yeah, and this and that, but they know the worst bad words in the world in their own language. Behind the scenes, boy, they're attacking that man. They are in total control. You would never know that they are just an evil, evil person. But, oh well, the guy would marry anybody, so there you go. Anyway, the kids, the daughter, the grandkids, end up with nothing out of this man. He even comes to the point where he does that reverse mortgage, in order to afford another, like a used trailer in another city, so that, like 2 years after she got her papers, man, she was gone. Boom. In another town, which is only like 40 miles from here, like another smaller city. And, she wanted to be over there where the bars were, where her, Spanish bars were. She's there like 3 days a week. She is a bar fly. And so she ends up in this little wasted little trailer park, and, she's back to, from all these men that she's been scamming from, even from her own country, which were older married men. And she's no prize herself, so some of these people are nothing but scammers, and they come in to like steal the legacy. They steal legacy. As a matter of fact, they steal and they even throw it away. They throw it away. They don't even really do anything that useful with it, so they end up right back in the ghetto where they were trying to not be, okay? So there's a lot of stuff that goes on in this world, and like my father's second wife, she wasn't like that. She wasn't all slut-smut, but she was just pretty much taking control. So I kind of thought to myself, I'm out there gardening and thinking, my goodness, man, if he would have stayed married with her, I wonder, what he would have, like, what, we probably wouldn't have gotten anything, really. Like, he would have died, she would have buried him there at the Veterans Cemetery, and I don't know. She would have kept the rest of his money, everything. Like, seriously. And no, she wasn't slut-smut, but there is a lot of slut-smut that will do that, so, and whatever inheritance, there's a lot of inheritance out there. And there's a lot of people, and men do it too. It's not just a woman, but there's men there too that might come in and, who knows what. But it's the same thing. But if it's important to people for your children to be left something, you know, whether it's control of a business that you had or anything that you had rolling for yourself or whatever, please, 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 you know, like I say, when I think back, you know, that if he hadn't probably gone out of that situation, maybe not always you have to leave a situation or leave a marriage or whatever it is, or the lover or whatever. But if it's like you really have to think about what is it that you want, you know, for your own children. Like her children over there back home, the other ones that she left over there, they were all benefiting. They were all benefiting. She didn't even need to help him pay a bill, you know. So she would like work as doing housekeeping, but she didn't have to pay any. She didn't help pay electric bills. Like she wasn't really helping pay for food or anything. Like he was just paying for everything while she kept her money to go on vacations, like over there, and then have big old parties over there and stuff like that. Like, look, everybody, I'm all rich, you know, and stuff. And she even had a bad reputation over there too. So things like that. So people really need to think about who's controlling, who's trying to control your money. When you come into second type situations, who is taking, what is it that you want for your children or your grandchildren? And, you know, think about it. You know, is this person trying to control all your money or what you have, and they're going to just get left with everything, or who knows what? And it just kind of depends on the person. You know, hey, if you don't really care, I guess what does it matter, you know? And you're just caring about one side of the family and not your own, you know? So, but I thank God, I do thank God that my father, to be honest with you, regardless of everything he went through, you know, his divorce, which left him in a lot of depression and everything like that, that he held on to us, and he always loved us and always wanted us to, like nobody was going to get in the way of his love for us. You know, if his marriage dissolved or something dissolved from somebody else, you know, or my mother or whoever, not to stop, not to care about, he cared about us. He cared about each and every one of us, and he didn't stop caring about us, even though the marriage was dissolved. So, you know, thank you, God. Tell my dad thank you, you know, because it wasn't until I was working out in the garden that I realized the word legacy and how it may have all turned out to be not over one person, over people that take control over all your resources or want control or who knows what. So please, people, beware. I could give you lots of examples that I've known throughout my years of how some children of this particular person got everything or got stuff, and those other children got left with nothing. So think about that. Just think about that, okay? Because I really know we wouldn't have ended up with anything from my father or probably even my mother or anything, you know. My mother's story was kind of different, and as to the inheritance of that. But still, you know, think about those things, you know, and how people will try to take a lot of control. And when somebody could leave a legacy or something, and somebody is being very controlling or greedy or who knows what they're doing, but your kids probably might not be left with anything, or your grandkids, and theirs will end up with the most. So, and sometimes this happens. Like, I'm not talking just about when people die. I'm talking about as it's going on, you know, because I witnessed like her always saying, oh, I'm this and that, you know, for her kids. And like, I would see like he wasn't doing anything for his, yet he always bragged about the kind of money he was spending on these girlfriends who were every single one of them that I knew. Like the first two I didn't know, but they were all total whores, man. They were younger than him though, so he thought he was something, you know. Like, it was ridiculous. That's some ridiculous stories there. Like, crazy stories. And a lot of some of these women are like literal, like not maybe women, but they're men too. I know men are quite capable of doing that and scamming a woman of what she could leave to her kids too. So, you know, beware. Beware, everyone. Or acknowledge what somebody else might be doing, or acknowledge what you're doing, or what you're neglecting having to do with your own. And, you know, towards your own children, towards your own grandchildren, and what have you. Just wake up. Wake up. Be aware. That's all I got to say about that.